if you have a consent calendar, if you have a consent agenda where you just pass in one motion, you pass a bunch of, meaningless little, not meaningless, but they're like just kind of like small little items, like we're going to have a bake sale on this day, we're going to do this on that day, whatever, a rule change here or a policy change there that's been debated over and over again. Like you can put them all on one list and say up or down, we just agree to this and we move on. We consent to all of it. And we've been hearing debates where some cities allow a city council member or the mayor or even a member of the public, as you said, Brian, before, to say, that there's one item on that consent agenda that I think we need to pull out and debate further or dig into it or have a discussion at least on it. And in some cities, Brian, you had said yesterday that your city does that very thing, right?
Yeah, that's until this bill came up, I didn't realize that other cities were different and didn't allow items on the consent agenda to be pulled out even by council members, which, seems strange to me.
Yeah. Well, we had one of those things happen today. A city councilman up in my neck of the woods was one of the opposing what do you call it? Opposition.
Opposition.
Yeah, opposing testifiers. Yes, exactly. Thank you. And it struck me as interesting because we'll play a little bit of it. The lobbyist for the Idaho Cities organization, I forget their official name, but we've seen her before. Yeah, Idaho Association of Cities. Kelly Packard. She was there this morning in favor of this bill. Let's listen to a little bit of her.
I thank Representative Alfieri, who reached out to our association about this matter so that we could help prior to legislation being brought forward. And I'd also like to thank Senator Taves and Representative Price for working with us on amending the initial language to ensure that we didn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Consent agendas are great for routine items, your minutes, your payables that are just daily transactional in nature. However, we think the clarity that is provided with this legislation that it cannot include major items and that one member of a governing body may pull that off, an item off of the consent agenda to be considered separately is helpful. To answer some of the questions and concerns that have been posed already today, most cities actually do adopt Robert's rules. Some have not. Usually your smaller cities have not taken the time to actually formalize that in an ordinance, and you can have some confusion, and I think that this provides some clarity.
Very good, very good. Okay, so she's all for it, the Association of Idaho Cities. Like I mentioned briefly, a sitting city council person up here in my neck of the woods testified in opposition to this, and basically laid out their argument. And then Representative Heather Scott on the committee had a question for Mr. DePriest here.
Oh, Mr. Chairman and Ed, I'm curious if your city is part of the Idaho Association of Cities who testified in favor of this.
Let me see, I'll do this right. Mr. Chairman and Representative, yes, we are. And in fact, the city did not even hear or find out about this until a couple of days ago. So we had not had the chance to reach out to the Idaho Association of Cities. We had discussion yesterday about reaching out to them. Again, this is about the autonomous ability of a city to deal with their particular situation that presents itself. We do not have Robert's rules. We do not have not adopted Mason's. I'm not going to disagree that it is probably a good idea for each city to provide their develop their own individual manuals, but we do not, and we are not required. And the city has forever basically operated as it has without any issues. So I guess in answer to your question, yeah, we are a member. Sorry about that.
Okay, so his own membership is for this bill, but he says, "Oh, but we've never had a problem. We've never had a problem here." How do you govern your city without any type of rules like this, Brian? Robert's rules, Mason. I mean, some sort of order, right?
I can only speculate as to what's going on in Councilmember DePriest's city, but I assume that some places just kind of do it informally. Maybe they follow Roberts, but it's not actually in code. Here in Indy, we definitely follow Roberts or variations thereof. We just had a special meeting last night for people like me who are on city boards or commissions to come in and learn some of the Roberts rules and learn about open meetings laws to make sure we're all following the law there. So I assume they have something.
Well, Brent Crane, ever the person who loves a nice rule book, you know, and sticks to it and moves his ship. You know, this is everyone's favorite committee for a reason. He had some questions here for Mr. DePriest. Do we not have that clip?
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
I know, me too.
I was over in the House Health and Welfare Overflow Room, so I missed all the fun in state affairs.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the
Question
one.
for you.
know,
So
that's
you
the
stated
primary.
you don't adopt Roberts, you don't adopt Masons. What do you use then as the rules to govern your meetings?
I think, as you stated, it is probably most likely ordinances and resolutions or whatever. This has been a big discussion with our legal, and we are kind of working our way through this. But to be honest with you, this is my third year as a council member. And my guess is that and this was part of the problem why somebody mentioned the fact that they looked into it and couldn't even find the previous ordinance, and that the attorney had to remove it. And that's kind of what happened here. This is somewhat of a cleanup operation so that we do have a policy to go by to deal with what has recently presented itself. When you consider the history of Hayden, they have basically operated, boy, people can see, I guess they see I'm on here. They basically operated with no problems until this issue has presented itself. But I agree. I think we should develop a procedure manual.
Oh yeah, you certainly should have one.
What do you think? Should we get one up here? This is my city, by the way. I didn't realize we'd be so in the spotlight here.
Well, what jumped out at me about the sponsors of the bill, both sponsors are from up in Coeur d'Alene, so it's almost like they're noticing things in their neighborhood that maybe they'd like to change and are looking for a solution here.
Yeah, and full disclosure, for about a year and a half or so, I sat on the Hayden Arts Commission, and there were a few times where I thought we were governed by Robert's rules, and so a few of us on the dais would try and make motions to that effect. And we were constantly told, well, we don't have Robert's rules here. And I just kind of felt like, what? Well, then what are we doing? How do we make sure things move along here? And I also noticed that Councilman DePriest is watching the program live and commenting. So that's great. Hey, this is a small community all over the state here, so it's good to see everybody have it. But I think we do need this rule, much to the chagrin of those who protest against it. I made the comment earlier that those who protest against some sort of, it looks like, this thing passed committee unanimously. You had the city association up there. You've heard other stories about how people try and use this to sneak through things that can't be debated and pulled out otherwise. And so those who do protest, I think, about this may be using it nefariously, if I don't say so myself.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. Having been watching city councils for a while and taking part in obviously on the library board and other commissions, seems common sense to me. But that maybe it's just because I'm used to that way. It seems to work out fine here. As council members can pull items and just discuss them further, and then they vote and move on. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, and it also helps not being bullied around by a majority part of the council. If you're go ahead.
I was going to say that's talking about having the minority being able to have a say. That's the whole point of Robert's rules, is that the majority will get its way, but the minority will have its say. And you have the right, even if you're on the minority side of something, to speak your mind as a member of a body, as a member of a council, and this helps that, I think.
I think it does. I think it does too, because there's nothing that says that even if you do pull something out of the consent agenda, the consent calendar, that it will then fail. It'll just be debated, and the majority could still rule in a way that you hoped it wouldn't. So I like transparency. I like being able to give the minority a voice here. So we're happy to see that thing sail through, much to the chagrin of some other folks. Okay, folks, let's take a short break. I do know that